Let's talk about death penalty really quickly. Obviously, a hot topic in the news. There's been a lot of content in media here in California, as well as nationally. I mean, it's been a big one because from what I've been reading, it's not necessarily, it's an executive order. And a lot of people don't really understand maybe the difference of what it means. Is it permanent? People are asking that question. What does it mean to California? I mean, I believe that we're the 4th state that recently got added to the list of, I think, Colorado, Oregon, and
Illinois.
Colorado, Oregon, and I actually had the other one.
Not Alabama.
Illinois has it.
Killing everybody.
How many guesses are we gonna have here? Like, keep going. None of those are on there. I believe it was, if I'm not correct, one of you has to guess this correct.
Illinois has a moratorium on it for the past 7 years.
You believe that? I think it was.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Governor did it.
Well, you
2 governors ago.
Well, you do realize in California, voters actually repealed it about 3 years ago.
Whoa, repealed
the death penalty. Or
no.
Yes, I agree with that. Yes, we repealed it.
No,
I'm not repealed. Excuse me.
Repealed failed.
Yeah, they voted.
So as 2 years ago,
Right.
so 2 years ago, the voters affirmed the death penalty. They did
Right.
not repeal it when it was on the ballot. They also passed a measure in order to speed up the way the process would work, to try to make it work better for prosecutors.
That's the high-speed execution.
That's yeah. Well,
so this is sort of in the face
still
of
slow
Exactly.
moving.
This is in the face of
So
So
the
this is
high-speed
in
rail
the
to the
face
chair,
of the voters affirming they want the death penalty. The governor has used his executive fiat to temporarily not implement it as long as he's governor. That's what's happened.
737 people on death row, and he has used this executive order to basically put a halt on it for now. But at the end of the day, it's the California voters who get to repeal it, not the governor. Correct?
They chose not to,
So
yeah.
that's the. And by the way, I found that Pennsylvania,
Quakers.
So, Colorado,
Nonviolent
Pennsylvania,
people.
Oregon,
Yeah.
and now California,
Pacifists.
4th state. I have a memorandum. Moratorium, excuse me, on this. So we're the 4th state, and what does it mean to California? What is the mindset about this here in California? I mean, if the voters are on one side of the table about it, and the governor is choosing to use, his personal beliefs on it, what do you guys think about that?
I agree with him.
I 100% agree with him, and I'm totally emphatic about it.
He's a governor who won by 25 points,
Yep.
and if you're not going to take that lead out for a ride every once in a while for something that's socially the right thing to do, then I don't know what else to do it for.
I agree.
But I'm a lefty.
Well, and leveraging his obvious popularity for a sort of a controversial point of view, I think is what makes it risky, but also what makes it admirable. And frankly, communities of color, I think, which are disproportionately affected by these types of laws, are really excited about it.
Mentally ill as well. That
Mentally
was the
ill
other
as well.
one. So
Yep.
they're the ones that are impacted greatly. And there was a statistics that I actually read that said supposedly 1 in 25 on death row are actually innocent. Statistics.
Well,
So-
then why are they there if they're innocent?
Well, again, the misrepresentation.
Not
of
a-
the-
not
So
a
here's the
perfect
thing.
system.
So here's the problem with, no matter how you feel about the issue, here's the problem. It has everything to do with the way the governor did it. We've already established the voters have just affirmed this as of very recently. They even proactively wanted it to be run better. What the governor did was out of nowhere, with no real consultation of the victim community, decides he's going to just do a moratorium and then take some type of moral high ground on the thing. Look, if you work in law enforcement, the victim community is sacred. So think about it. You had families out there that found out by listening to the radio news that night that the murderer of their loved one had been essentially had their sentence not commuted, but a moratorium on them facing the death penalty without ever being consulted. So the governor's fault in this was process related. And he's been creamed by liberals on this. George Skelton, who's a pretty liberal columnist of the LA Times, excoriated him for basically flipping his I'd say the bird at the will of the voters. And sure, he ran for governor and had a landslide, Dan, but he never campaigned on this issue. In fact, the only thing that can be found on record on this issue is a campaign spokesman saying some time ago that he would uphold the will of the voters, the law of the land. So, we're seeing signs of someone that really loves their executive power and wants it to use it however they want, which is certainly his legal right to do. But politically, it's been pretty disrespectful to, frankly, millions of Californians, particularly those in the victims community.
Well, I'm gonna actually
The process
jump
is
in.
interesting. I didn't include it on the process, but it's unfortunate if that's really what happened, and the victim should be heard. But murder is against the law, and killing someone is against the law. So why morally should the state be allowed to do it?
Well,
That's
your,
the bigger picture for me.
Then go
I'm
to
against
the,
that thing.
and you know, and I think
but that's a personal
or go to
take
the
on it.
ballot again and let the people repeal what they have continued to affirm.
He could have done that too. Yeah.
It's not the law. It's not the law of California.
But again, here's the thing that I'm going to say out loud. Understanding it from your perspective, I can see where you're going. Obviously, the victims, you know, it's an empathetic conversation to be had. Now, he did get together with victims, did hear him out. Maybe this was after the fact, but I'm going to say something out loud. If he knows that this was going to be controversial and it's so close to his heart and he chose to still do something, to me, leadership isn't about making everybody happy. It's about taking a stand in what you believe in and creating impact.
Courageous.
So, courage is what we need in leadership.
So where was the courage during the campaign to say he was going to do this in the first 90 days? So, you know, if we're gonna you know, deign him and knight him with courage, then why didn't he campaign on this? And no, he didn't. He did not consult with the victim community. By law, prosecutors in the counties are, by law, the designee for the victims of families to be in communication with. There was not a DA in the state that had a legitimate heads up or discussion. Leadership is also discussion. Leadership is making sure everyone's welcome around the table to have a discussion. So the victims, the people that represent the victims, they're the DAs. The respectful thing to do would have been to convene that table and talk to those prosecutors and say, I'm really thinking of doing this, and have real dialogue. That did not happen before this decision.
Do you think that because
Why
that
did he do
didn't
it?
happen that he suffered any political pushback or consequence? I think that he realizes sort of the ownership in the space politically that he has, and he's just going to cash all his chips in, because I don't know that there's been any pushback to that sense.
Well,
right?
I'll point to his approval numbers in the PPIC poll, which are under 50% in the first 90 days.
So why did he do it?
Because he believes it and he can.
But out of the blue, why did he?
I don't know. That's
something
it's
must
a
have
really
been-
good question, because why did he flip flop on high speed rail? I mean, there's a lot of question here, I think, in the first few months about how well thought out some of these actions
But
are.
before we go on the high speed rail, sorry, 1 second. Let's say, devil's advocate, he actually did sit with the people. Now, I don't know the intricate details of who he sat with, who did it, he didn't, so I'm not gonna make an assumption. But if he didn't, and let's say, Rob, you got what you're saying. In a perfect world, we go back, he actually sat with the victims prior to making this executive order decision, but he still made it. Would that have made a difference today?
It would have helped.
Process,
Yes, because
yeah.
it wasn't so disrespectful to the victim community.
So the idea here is to have heard the victim community and been politically
And here's the
correct
thing.
handle
And then he
it.
goes on to pat himself on the back tour, right? He
Right.
goes and sits on the couch at the View and talks about what a wonderful
Kind of like
thing
our
he's done,
couch.
kind of like what we're
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
here. And again, so this embellishment of what he did just makes it worse and worse. Then he misrepresents what it really meant, saying that he would have had to review one of these cases every week and didn't have time to do that. That's not true. There's only 35 of these that he probably would have seen in the next 4 years that he's in office. And he talks about how it's disproportionately applied, that there's people that are innocent. Well, you know, so now he's just left all these innocent people, if he really believes that, in prison for life. The way you get to the bottom of those cases is when they come to you in a clemency request as governor, and you spend the resources with your legal team digging into those cases. He's not doing any of that.
So first 100 days, go ahead.
My bottom line
Yeah.
is, I get that this may not have been the most political thing to do, but from my standpoint, death penalty is wrong. It's immoral. It's not a deterrent. I guess if you just want to feel better because you're, punishing people who maybe in your mind deserve to be punished, that's one thing. But I don't believe that, and so for me, Gavin gets high marks for doing it. So, but I get.
But we're crazy lefties.
Well, we are, and we are California again. It's
No, but to
Donald
Rob's
Trump
point,
tweeted,
California
though.
voted on it.
Right.
So
We're not Pennsylvania.
So we
that's
had
for
a
sure.
we had a Donald Trump tweet on it. I don't know if you guys remember. He actually took a stand against what our governor did and said,
Which Gavin wanted that.
which
obviously.
obviously
Which is a win for Gavin.
Like,
That's a win.
No, it's all pro wrestling. He and
Yeah.
Gavin
Right.
talk at night,
Yeah.
decide how they're going to fight each other the next day.
Yeah.
because it
Who's-
works for both of them.
Always conclude on a up note and bring up a Trump tweet, right? On
Or
Facebook.
wrestling.
And always bring it wrestling.
For Dan.
Or wrestling. Why not both? Maybe on our next show we're actually do more Trump
But who's Hogan and
wrestling
who's
tweets.
Macho
so-
Man in that scenario?
Yeah. So
You're digging yourself now.
So we want to keep an eye on on this topic. Obviously, is this going to end up going to the voters? Do you guys think it will? Is this going to be something that we're going to put on a ballot in the future?
Well, it'll take the legislature could put it on the ballot,
Right.
and then a bunch of Democrats who, now there's so many of them in
Right.
moderate districts would have to vote to put it on the ballot. I'm not sure they're anxious to do that.
I don't see 2/3 of them putting it on
I
the
don't.
ballot.
But even
Here's
even if it made it to the ballot,
Yeah.
I feel like voters would agree with Gavin at this
I
point.
totally agree.
So
Ben.
even if it were to make
But
it to
here's
the
the
ballot
funny
again,
part with
Because
Why do you guys
They're
agree
wrong.
with that? Why do you guys agree with that?
Because Gavin
because I don't think it was
has-
really discussed last time. I don't think it was
Yes.
really known
Yes.
that wasn't a sexy ballot initiative
Yes.
or whatever.
And it
I
was-
feel like
I'm
if
not
more
taking
people
my
think about it-
chances. I'm
and
sticking with
you know
executive
what?
order.
And there's a ooey.
One vote.
And by the way, there's a Gavin factor here too, right? There's a charming Gavin factor here in California now. We feel it here in Sacramento because we're here in Sacramento. But I think if it ended up on a ballot, I totally agree with Patrick. I
Yeah, I
think
don't-
people would, because it's Gavin, I think it would definitely.
Well, and the more that you
make
talk
a
about it, the
difference.
more invigorated liberals feel statewide, in particular because of what's happening at the national level. It sort of always becomes a screw you to Trump, right?
Right.
So I think they're engaged. They're going to come out in mass, and I think Gavin's decision would hold
Different
up.
times.
Death,
different times.
here's the thing: you're giving Gavin way too much credit. Again, go look at his approval ratings. People are kind of, they're still kicking tires.
I don't
They're not-
think
let me
it's-
finish
I don't
that.
think we
They're-
should go to
They're
the
not in
ballot.
love with them. But if you go back to the ballot, if you go back to the ballot with death penalty,
Right.
Yeah, this is all fine. It's wrong, and you can PPIC ask the question: would you rather have life in prison versus this? But as soon as you put cop killers and baby killers up in those ads that are going to be let out, sure,
It's
I'll go with the
how it's
ballot
done.
again. Let's see how that shakes
You
out.
heard it from the
They're not getting
spin
out.
doctor himself. The spin doctor just spoke.
Well,
so-
those are the real consequences.
Yeah.
What's his name? Peterson? Lacey Peterson's killer?
Sure. Yeah.
So moving from that topic, and again, we'll continue to watch to see if this ends up on the ballot or not for future content.